Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to try out Giratina in the Open Ultra League meta. This Pokemon in previous seasons has been the Mon in Ultra League, the king, the ruler, whatever you want to call it. It's been the biggest force to try to take down, but recent moveset updates have made it a lot harder to use, so I want to answer the question, is it still the king of Ultra League? I stream my battles basically every day at twitch.tv/itsaxon, so if you want to see these battles live, make sure to check me out there. I start 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. I'd love to see you there. So let's get into the battles and see what this Giratina can do. All right, getting right on into game number one here. We have Giratina in the lead up against a Talonflame. If we take a look at our moveset, we're running Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, and Shadow Sneak, so no Ancient Power to throw super effective damage against this, but I can still resist these Incinerates, so this is still a pretty good matchup for me. They end up throwing a move right after 3. If this is a Brave Bird and they want to swap out, they can actually chip down my Giratina pretty well here. It looks like that is exactly what they're going to do, and they come in with a Dragonite. This is not the best Pokemon to see, but I also can still just go for these Dragon Claws, try to chip it down, and they actually let that through, which is kind of surprising to me. I throw another Dragon Claw before I can switch out. This is going to do either the finishing blow or draw a shield from our opponent. They end up shielding. I can come in Drapion, shield once, farm down, and use the energy that I have on Shadow Drapion to hopefully win us this game. We have to keep in mind there is still that Talonflame alive. They threw a Brave Bird though before swapping out, so they're basically energy dry right now. What is going to come in to answer our Shadow Drapion? It's going to be a fighting type Pokemon. Looks like it's actually a Primeape of all things, which is not the worst thing to see. Obviously, they have to go for close combats to knock us out, and with this energy lead that I have here, I should be able to get to 2 Aqua Tails before they can even reach a close combat. I'm going to shield up just because I think that a Rage Fist bait would be kind of crazy at this point. Shield it up, guarantee that I can survive this, and it is a close combat, which is fantastic. In comes the Talonflame, and now I know our win condition. Just throw these 2 Aqua Tails, and then use our Talonflame to take out the rest of this team. We still have a bit of our Giratina alive as well if we need it for some more fast food pressure. They don't have a lot of damage against us using both Incinerate and Karate Chop, so I know that our Giratina, despite being pretty low, might still have a little bit of play this game. We actually see they come back in with their Primeape. I can go for this Aqua Tail, and now they have to use their final shield. My Talonflame should be in a great spot to close this out, just with Incinerate damage, maybe even reaching a Fly. There's no way this thing can knock us out. It's not running Rock Slide or Stone Edge like Machamp would. They just let us Incinerate them all the way down there. We take game number 1. GG's to our opponent. Next matchup here, a much worse lead this time. It's up against a Clefable. I have to instantly swap to my Shadow Drapion and try to make something happen this game. It depends on how they want to play this out to see exactly what I'm going to do. This time they end up trying to throw a move before swapping out. It's going to be a Meteor Mash. I shield it up because I know that energy lead on our Shadow Drapion is going to be massive. Then comes a Miltank. If this was a Licky Licky, it would be a lot harder to take down, because I would assume that a Licky Licky would have Earthquake, but this is a Miltank that likely has Body Slam, and then either Thunderbolt or Ice Beam. With that said, this Miltank is going to have shield advantage against us, and they can survive 2 crunches despite me getting an early debuff here, which is a little bit awkward. I have to no-shield this move because I've already used 1 shield. They haven't shielded even a single time yet, but at least our Giratina does get to avoid this Miltank. I might have been able to Poison Sting them down there. I didn't want to risk it, though. I want to make sure that I either draw the shield or get switch advantage this game, and we do get switch against that Clefable. They actually bring it right back in, which is huge for us because now I can go for this Aqua Tail, chip them down, and make it a little bit more manageable for our backline. So despite being down shields, I know that Giratina with a switch advantage here could potentially be a good Pokemon. And then we also have Talonflame, which is going to be fantastic against this Clefable. Whatever they're going to do this game, they actually end up catching the Crunch there. I threw the Crunch to try to get the debuff against that Clefable. I know it does about the same amount of damage as an Aqua Tail would have done. So I actually get kind of lucky that they tried to catch an Aqua Tail, and I land the Crunch against this Shadow Feraligatr. I get the debuff, and now our Giratina has done all it needs to do this game. I can no-shield this attack. I know I survive an Ice Beam, and I know this is all Talonflame's game at this point. I just have to let our Giratina go down here. They're going to be forced to throw energy if they don't want to take a Shadow Sneak, which is exactly what they do, and now our Giratina has done its job. Talonflame can come in, absorb all of the damage, incinerate down, and take the game for us here. GG's to our opponent, just barely coming back from a Clefable lead thanks to Shadow Drapion putting in so much work. Alright, this is a lead that's also very bad for us. The Galarian Moltres have to come in with our Shadow Drapion, but they instantly swap to their, I think it's a Shadow Hippowdon here. That's crazy. Pokemon I've actually seen a little bit more of recently in the Ultra League. Obviously, it does have access to ground and rock type damage. It is gonna probably throw a Scorching Stance against us here. It could be a rock type Weather Ball bait, but I would be a little bit surprised about that if that was the case. It's a risky bait for them, and that is exactly why we shield, and it is a Scorching Stance. Luckily, no debuff on our end. I'm gonna go for another Aqua Tail. We do pace very quickly to these, but that Galarian Moltres is such a problematic Pokemon for us right now. I don't know how I'm gonna win this game, saying I don't have an answer to it once my Shadow Drapion goes down. I do get both shields from them here, which is helpful. I make a catch on a Weather Ball Rock, which is also helpful, but once again, our Giratina is not running Ancient Power. What this means is Moltres can come back in. It's not going to be threatened by our charge moves. Our fast moves will add up quite a bit, but Dragon Claw is not a great attack. It's not going to do that much damage to this Galarian Moltres. I'm kind of going to try to drip down our best that we can here, but that Hippowdon probably has a bit of energy on it still. They could probably reach a move if they want to, and our Giratina is getting so low. We're getting Sucker Punched down, and I think they're going to have so much energy for our backline at this point. One Dragon Claw does not knock out. I throw the next one. If this is enough to knock out, then we're going to be in a decent spot, but if they survive this, they have so much energy, not only on this Moltres, but also on that Hippo. I'm going to have to try to come in here with our Shadow Drapion, get our move off, but they instantly swap out, they snipe us down with a Weather Ball Rock, and the amount of health that they have left over is such an awkward amount. If I would have shielded that move, then I would have had to no-shield a move from that Moltres with our Talonflame, but I cannot quite farm them down before they reach another Weather Ball Rock. This is terrible news. I think at this point we have to no-shield this. I know that it's a Rock-type move, it's going to nearly one-shot us, but they still have access to that Moltres, and of course, in the back, another hard answer to our Talonflame with the Feraligatr. This game was probably not super winnable. We land the Brave Bird, but yeah, it doesn't even one-shot. It's Ultra League, right? Everything has a little bit more bulk here, so GG's to them. Next game, a Shadow Alolan Sandslash lead. That's terrible, a huge core breaker, but I'm going to safe flop our Shadow Drapion here, because in Ultra League, a lot of these Shadow Alolan Sandslash run Shadow Claw rather than Powder Snow, which is what it looks like this one is also running here, which is fantastic, because these fast moves do nothing to us. We can at the very least draw shields from this thing and make it so our Giratina doesn't have to deal with it. If they're going to throw an Ice Punch bait, that's a good bait by them, but no, they go for the straight Drill Run. They can get to 3 Drill Runs before we can get to 4 Crunches, and that is what we need to do to knock them out, especially if we don't get debuffs. If we got a defense drop, there's a chance an Aqua Tail could knock out eventually, but no, debuffs for us, which means we have to double shield, go straight for these Crunches, and try to whittle down this Sandslash as much as we can. I'm kind of worried, though, if they're staying in here, does that mean they have a better answer to our Giratina in the back, or does it mean that they just don't have an answer to our Shadow Drapion, and we're getting rid of one of our most strong Pokemon right now? I don't really know, but we get the defense drop on that final move on CMP, though, with this Drill Run, which means now our Shadow Drapion is going to go down. I know I can farm this down with Talonflame, but it's going to come down to what they have in the back here to see if it's going to be any Pokemon that we have play into. It's going to be a Tentacruel. Okay, this is one of the hardest answers here to our Talonflame. I can go for the Fly, and then I can go for the Brave Bird, which potentially will knock out this Tentacruel. I don't know if they'll survive on 1 HP. This is going to be so close. Can I do over 50% of a Tentacruel's health here with a Brave Bird? Come on, Talonflame, please tell me you can. 1 HP survive, and they CMP'd on the Scald, which means now my Talonflame is going to go down completely. I have to farm this down with our Giratina, and I have to hope that whatever the final Pokemon is something I can win in the Zero Shield matchup. Unfortunately for us, it is another Ghost-type Pokemon, one that has a much more powerful Ghost-type move with Shadow Ball, and Astonish is also doing so much damage. You're going to see how bad Shadow Sneak is here. It doesn't even come close to knocking them out. Shadow Ball is easily going to one-shot us. Honestly, this is where Giratina kind of suffers, right? The new Ghost types are just so strong. It is stuck with Shadow Sneak. It is such a terrible move. And if I were to run, I think it's like Shadow Force is its signature move. That is also a terrible move. It costs like 90 energy, so it really needs some love here. I think if Giratina got a bit of a Shadow Sneak buff, it would be so much better. Then again, it's also been a Pokemon that's been so dominant for so long. I don't know if you want to buff this thing, but I think at this point, it's not as oppressive as it used to be, so it probably could get buffed at this point. Anyway, we saw a Magnezone in the lead. They safe swap here with their Talonflame, and I don't really have a hard answer to this aside from my Giratina, so I opt to stay in for a second, which could be a bit of a mistake depending on how that Magnezone gets aligned in the backline. I end up shielding the next move just in case it's a Brave Bird, but they just go double fly against us here. I'm going to throw my Dragon Claw because I know if they shield this up, I can go for another Dragon Claw before they can get their next fly, and if they no shield, I Dragon Breath them all the way down. I still have my Giratina, I have a bit of energy, and it really is going to come down to what the final Pokemon is. A bit of a core breaker here, right? Shadow Feraligatr is tricky for our Giratina because Shadow Claws do a lot of damage. They obviously have chipped us down quite a bit as well, into range where they can probably just fast move us all the way down, but these Dragon Breaths and Dragon Claws are chipping down the Shadow Feraligatr quite a bit as well. They are forced to throw a Hydro Cannon here, so I can come in with our Shadow Drapion, absorb a bit of energy, and potentially incinerate down that Magnezone with our Talonflame later on. If it was a Shadow Magnezone, I know I'd be able to do a bit more fast move pressure against them, but the non-Shadow Magnezone might be able to get to 2 charge moves here. We have to be very quick on our swap the second that we see it come in, swap into our Talonflame, and these Incinerates are doing a lot of damage, but they still have 2 shields to hide behind. I don't know exactly how we're going to win this game. I'm going to have to try to call the proper move. We shield the Wild Charge, which is what we need to do exactly. We end up throwing the Fly, because I would not have been able to get off another Incinerate anyway. They would have thrown that Wild Charge and knocked us out. So we end up going for the shield there. We can farm this down with Poison Stings and maybe have enough energy on our Shadow Drapion after farming down this Magnezone to knock out that Feraligatr. We get a ton of Poison Stings here. We are 2 away from the back-to-back crunch. I know they drained all of their energy before they swapped out with the Shadow Feraligatr, so as long as I get these 2 crunches off before their next Hydro Cannon, Drapion should be able to close out this backline, not just taking out the Magnezone, but taking out the Shadow Feraligatr as well. A bit of a tricky Pokemon, right? We don't have a hard answer to this Gator, but our Drapion is probably our best check to it, and even Giratina was putting in a lot of work against that. Alright, Giratina, that is a terrible lead. What is this? In Ultra League, seeing a low kicks, not what I want to see. These fast moves would do so much damage to Giratina. They probably don't have a lot of charge move pressure, though, right? It's going to be X's or in Trailblaze, so potentially there's going to be play for us later on, depending on what they're going to do here. They actually end up no-shielding an Aqua Tail, and they're throwing a move against us. I'm kind of thinking at this point, if they're staying in low kicks, they're not going to have a hard answer to us. So I'm going to shield that up and keep our Shadow Drapion healthy. In comes their own Shadow Drapion. This is the meta, I guess, where Shadow Drapion's on every single team. It's such a strong Pokemon, right? It makes sense, but it's also something that you have to know how to play around. I know that I win CMP against a lot of these Shadow Drapions in Ultra League, so I'm just going to go for it. And we do see that we win the CMP. I'm going to try to catch the next Aqua Tail on our Giratina to give it some use this game. We have chipped down that low kicks. We've chipped down the Shadow Drapion. What are the odds they have another hard answer to our Giratina in the back? I'm hoping they don't, but we'll just have to see at this point. In comes the Aqua Tail. We did make the proper catch, and now that low kicks is going to come in. These sucker punches are adding up, but I'm pretty sure I can reach the Dragon Claw right before their first move. This is either going to draw a shield or take out the low kicks. What are our opponent going to do here this game? They do end up letting it go. In comes probably the Shadow Drapion or their final Pokemon. Shadow Drapion does come in. They can probably reach a move here at the last second, getting the crunch against our Giratina. I'm going to shield it up. It seems like they're weak to Giratina at this point. This energy could be useful. We still have Shadow Drapion. We still have Talonflame. There's a chance for us to win this game as long as it's not a hard answer to us. In comes the Tentacruel as their final Pokemon. That's not amazing for us to see, though. We are probably going to get Poison Jab down, or maybe they're going to throw a Scald before we get the next crunch. Either way, though, we need to get a debuff here. It's over a 50% chance when you throw 2 crunches. Come on, Drapion, please get this debuff against this Tentacruel. No debuff there. That's so unfortunate. We don't even get that Aqua Tail, so they get a huge farm down. If they're running Blizzard, they can one-shot us here. If I got a debuff and they had Blizzard, then I know my Talonflame would be able to survive one Scald, get to a Brave Bird, and win this game. But the fact that we got no debuffs, and the fact that they are actually running Blizzard means now I don't even get any damage off with our Giratina. That's not amazing for us. I am at back-to-back charge moves now because they threw on alignment, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to almost be knocked out by this. Yeah, that's not enough help to survive and get to 2 moves, which means that despite having 2 attacks here, I can only get 1 off. This Brave Bird once again not knocking the Tentacruel out just on 1 HP. Very close matchup there. GG's to them. Another Dark type in the lead, although this one's a little bit more manageable. This is normally going to be running the Water Shuriken Night Slash moveset. Honestly, I don't know why I say normally. I don't know what else it could even run at this point. It's Greninja. You don't have a lot of options. Night Slash does not 2-shot us unless they boost. Fortunately, though, I don't manifest it here. No boost comes through from our opponent, and since our Dragon Breaths are adding up so much, I'm pretty sure they're going to have to be pressured to shield before we are. 1 Dragon Claw is not going to knock them out, but I'm almost at back-to-back here. They're 1 away from their next move, but I'm 2 Dragon Breaths away from mine, and since they have a 3-turn move, I can reach my Dragon Claw right before their 3rd Night Slash, taking out this Dark-type Pokemon, which honestly is a very hard Pokemon for both Shadow Drapion and Talonflame to deal with. Once this is out of the way, I'm hoping that our backline's going to have a lot more play. In comes a Driftblim to farm us down. I don't like that they got a lot of energy here, but I didn't really want to lock ourselves in with Shadow Drapion just in case they have another answer to us, so I'm going to be fine taking this debuff, going for the crunches, and trying our best to neutralize this balloon. It depends on what they have in the back at this point to see how much play we're going to have. Greninja plus Driftblim. I could see there being some sort of Charmander in the back. Hopefully it's not a Tentacruel. That would be terrible. I've seen a lot of what's it called, like ABA water teams that we've seen, which I mean I ran them myself, very weak to electric. I'm really hoping that's not the case here though. Hopefully they respect electric in some form. Greninja plus Driftblim is already ABA weak to electric, I guess, so we'll have to see what their final Pokemon's going to be. They double debuff us. They try to catch a move. What the heck? That's a Clodsire in Ultra League. Well, that's not fantastic for us if they have Stone Edge. I'm going to call it here just in case. It's only a 2200 CP Pokemon. I honestly don't even know if a Stone Edge would knock us out there. They actually have Sludge Bomb, though, as their move, which makes our life so much easier. We can go for the Brave Bird here after no-shielding this next Sludge Bomb. And now, as long as we can align our Drapion back up against that balloon, we're in a fantastic spot. I don't think I can quite one-shot them here with this Brave Bird, unfortunately. No, it is still a pretty bulky Pokemon despite missing about 300 CP here, so this Fly is going to have to be thrown to knock them out, but I have cleared my debuff on Shadow Drapion, which means that now I should be able to one-shot them, or nearly one-shot them here with this move. Even if I don't one-shot them, I'm almost at my next Aqua Tail as well. So Crunch is thrown, not quite enough to knock out, but I have a shield. I'm almost at my Aqua Tail. Just shield up this Icy Wind, throw the Aqua Tail, knock out Driftblim, and win the game here. Very interesting team. I'm really surprised to see a Clodsire in the Ultra League. Obviously, a level 50 Pokemon. If level 60 or level 70 was a thing, that would be a much more threatening pick to see, but it is only 2200 CP, so not quite as difficult to deal with. Speaking of difficult, though, this is a terrible lead matchup. Malamar, obviously one of the hardest answers to Giratina, just because you get outpaced to foul plays, and you also end up losing CMP, you're taking super effective damage, and Dragon Claws don't do much damage, so it's kind of awkward. And they have a Cobalion that they apparently caught our Crunch on, which is even worse, especially because we don't get our debuff. Our Shadow Drapion is malfunctioning. I don't know. It's not getting any debuffs with these Crunches here. If I could get a single debuff, maybe there'd be a chance I can whittle my way through this matchup, but not getting that debuff means that now these Aqua Tails are not going to threaten anywhere near as soon. Aqua Tails are going to be spammed out as quickly as I can. I am 2 away from my next move. I know, though, that they have a lot of energy. If they want to throw a Sacred Sword, I'm going to have to try to catch it on Giratina here, which I do try to catch, but they see it coming a mile away. They swap back to Malamar, and now I'm going to have to absorb all of the energy that they stored up against our Shadow Drapion. This is looking absolutely terrible for us at this point. I could see a way to maybe win this if they're just ABA weak to... I guess, no, it's not ABA. It'd be ABB weak to Talonflame because they had this Malamar in the lead. If it's like Cobalion, Virizion in the backline, maybe Talonflame can really put in some work. But if that's not the case, if it's like literally anything else, then I'm in a little bit of trouble here. It's probably just going to be like another Tentacruel in the back, right? That seems to be the common theme of the day. I have the Aqua Tail here that I can throw, though. Snipe down this energy on the Malamar. They actually end up shielding and then swapping out to Cobalion. Okay, this is looking a little bit more playable now. Draining energy here, potentially getting an Incinerate down. I have shield advantage. As long as our Talonflame can beat the final Pokemon, there's still a decent chance that we can win this game, despite the fact that they still have this Malamar alive with a decent amount of energy. I know I have to shield up, right? I've saved these 2 shields for a reason. My Giratina and my Shadow Drapion have been pretty useless this game. Please, Talonflame, tell me you can Incinerate down. I can't quite get the 2-shot here. I want to throw this move before they reach another attack, as long as it's something that Talonflame doesn't hard lose to in the backline. I should have some play, but no, it's just Tentacruel. It's Ultra League. It's just Tentacruel. That's all you ever see, I swear. I'm not going to be able to get to these 3 flies, I don't think, before they get to 2 Scalds. It's going to be close, but I'm going to try my best here, because not only do I need to get to 3 flies, I might even need to try to bait a fly and get a Brave Bird off if I want any chance to knock this out. In comes the Scald. I'm going to be able to reach another fly here, but I'm not quite at the next Brave Bird. I'm only at the back-to-back fly. Fly would not be enough here. I have to reach for it, and I have to hope at this point that I get the move before they do, but no, 1 turn difference in losing this game. Scald is going to knock us out, despite our best efforts here. Unfortunately, Talonflame not able to close it out against that Tentacruel. All right, next matchup, a bit of an interesting lead, the Pangoro, a very neutral matchup, though, for our Dragon Breath user. If we were running Shadow Claw, once again, this matchup would be so much worse because we'd have no fast move pressure. They'd be able to outpace us with Night Slashes as well. Luckily, though, we survived 2 Night Slashes, and I'm pretty sure that these Dragon Claws are going to trip down this Pangoro quite a bit. This is a very squishy Pokemon. Let's see if they want to shield it or if they're just fine letting it go. They do let go of the first move, and I know they will get another Night Slash before I get my next Dragon Claw, but they won't get 2 more, right? So I can get my second Dragon Claw off before the 3rd Night Slash comes through, just barely getting this and making them make the decision first. Are they going to shield this, or do they just let their Panda go? Giratina is still decently healthy at this point. I don't know if I want to quite let it go, and I'm going to swap into Shadow Drapion, because that would be a huge farm down to give over to this Driftblim. In comes the first Crunch. They have not debuffed us yet, so I'm almost certainly expecting a shield here, which is exactly what comes through from our opponent. They are overfarming a little bit. They have the Icy Wind ready to throw against our Shadow Drapion, but once again, in Ultra League, things are a lot bulkier. I can easily tank that move. In the backline is going to be a Shadow Tentacruel, it looks like. So we are debuffed, but we have an energy lead. Maybe I can get a Crunch debuff? No, never. I guess our Shadow Drapion really just doesn't like us right now, but that's totally fine. We can shield this up as long as no Scald debuff happens here. We can probably still 2-shot them with 2 more Crunches. Thankfully, no Crunch or no Scald debuff from our opponent. This Crunch will do a decent amount of damage. I just want to get this out of the way so our Talonflame doesn't have to deal with it. Talonflame has been aligned against Tentacruel way more times than I want to admit this video. Another Crunch is going to either draw a shield from this or get the KO. They end up shielding this, farming us down, and I did finally get the defense drop a little bit too late, though, to really have any impact here, and now they're going to have a lot of energy. I'm going to shield this up because this is our easiest way to take down this Tentacruel, and I know that our what's it called, Talonflame, is going to have a decent matchup against Driftblim as long as we are able to go for Brave Bird with shields down. They are throwing a charge move here, just an Icy Wind though. Looks like they don't want to be one-shot by a Brave Bird, but that's totally fine at this point. I know I survive another Icy Wind, and I don't want to give them too much farm on that Tentacruel. I have the Brave Bird ready to go. I'm going to click it. Hopefully it knocks them out. Even if it doesn't knock them out though, as long as this is Dragon Breath downrange, I can farm them down with Giratina, get Dragon Claws against that Tentacruel, and still be in a very good spot. In comes the Tentacruel. As long as no charge moves are reached, we should be able to win this game. Dragon Claw is reached before a Scald or an Acid Spray from this Tentacruel, and we can knock it out. GG's to our opponent. Very, very close endgame there. Tentacruel on every team, I swear. It's the only Pokemon that you can always guarantee is going to be in the back. Alright, well, this is a bit of a core breaker, right? Depends on their moveset, I guess, though. I've seen some running Earthquake, some running Shadow Ball. If this is not running Shadow Ball, it's a much better matchup for Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw Giratina, so we'll have to see what they're going to throw against us. This first Dragon Claw is coming through. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but these Dragon Breaths are kind of chipping them down quite a bit. What move are they going to throw against us here? It is an Earthquake, which is going to do a lot less damage than Shadow Ball would do. Also costs a little bit more energy, so it's looking a little bit better for us than it could be if they were running that other moveset. Another Dragon Claw is going to be thrown here, and now as long as I can reach my third Dragon Claw before they can knock us out, we've kind of neutralized a very problematic Pokemon. Then again, they're staying in this lead matchup. I'm pretty sure they're going to be a little bit weaker to our Giratina in the backline, which they are, I guess, with this Poliwrath, but I didn't really want to bait this out. This is kind of terrible to see right now because Poliwrath can absorb all of our energy. I baited the Sludge Bomb there just in case we could get a shield. They actually do end up shielding their Poliwrath, which is amazing. It's exactly what we needed to get back into this game. Another Crunch will be thrown. No debuff. We don't get debuffs around these parts. I'm trying my best here to make our Shadow Drapion worthwhile, but I don't know. At this point, our opponents are never getting debuffs. They're getting their debuff there, obviously, because it's a guarantee, but no Crunch debuffs for us here. Another Crunch is going to be thrown. Do we get the debuff this time? Of course not. In comes our Talonflame. Luckily, they swap out, though, and we see their final Pokemon as the Driftblim. This is a pick that's going to start spamming out Icy Winds. I kind of have to no-shield once again, but at this point, what am I going to shield this game? I've no-shielded every single move. All three of my Pokemon are basically in the red at this point. I'm going to bait a fly, hopefully draw a shield from them, and then land a Brave Bird. No, actually, I clicked the Brave Bird. All right. I guess that's also a good play. I can just go and invest in my Giratina at this point because I know Poliwrath and Licky are not going to be able to fast move me down. They only are using Rollout and Counter. Our Giratina still has a decent amount of health left. We draw a shield there, and as long as we can shield up these moves, go for these Dragon Claws and Dragon Breaths against this Poliwrath, Poliwrath, that is, knock them out before they get to another move here, then we should be in a good spot as long as we have that shield left over for Licky. Do we knock out with this move? No. That debuff making it so we do so much less damage, but we get the Dragon Breath down right before they reach their next Icy Wind, and now if we can get this Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw combo off to knock out this Licky, we should have this game here, putting in a lot of work with our Giratina. GG's to our opponent. I'm so glad they did not have Shadow Ball on that Licky. In the next game, the trickiest lead we've been seeing here this video, the Malamar. Once again, I safe swap my Shadow Drapion. In comes the Shadow Alolan Sandslash, which is a very tricky Pokemon to deal with, but thankfully, unlike in Great League where you see a lot of Powder Snow, we are seeing it's once again going to be the Shadow Claw variant. We also get the debuff here with our Crunch, which could be helpful. Maybe now I can start going for Aqua Tails, but I don't really want to take the risk that they end up no-shielding an Aqua Tail early on, and then I have to go down 2 shields, so I am still going to go for the Crunch here, try to get the guarantee shield or KO against them, and if I can get shields down, maybe Talonflame can put in some work against the entire team. We'll just have to see what their final Pokemon's going to be. This time I am throwing the Aqua Tail, trying our best to knock them out with this move. I don't think it would be quite enough still to knock them out, though, so they do end up shielding, but I'm not sure if I can get to the Aqua Tail or the Crunch before their next move. I think I have to reach the Crunch still if I want to knock them out, and that is what we're going to go for. Unfortunately, they do reach the Drill Run at the last second, which means they can knock out our Shadow Drapion, but I do get a nice Incinerate down with our Talonflame. Whatever their final Pokemon's going to be, this game is going to be the big decider on if we can win. They bank a lot of energy. They can probably reach another Ice Punch against our Talonflame later on because of the way they've played out this game. They might even be able to reach an Ice Punch against the Giratina still. They survived on 1 HP. That is so unfortunate. In comes the Talonflame, though. They hard swapped since they saved their Ace-Slash. They also switched left to Talonflame in a bit of a bad matchup. I still have my Malamar alive this game. I have my Giratina, which can neutralize this Talonflame quite a bit. They let us reach this next move before throwing a Brave Bird potentially against us, so now I can fast move this down. This is looking like a Talonflame sweep if I've ever seen one. They throw another move here. Brave Bird would knock us out. Fly would not quite knock us out. They have to go for the Fly if they don't want to debuff themselves, and in comes the Malamar. The one thing I was worried about this game was a potential catch from our opponent, but because they've switch locked themselves into Malamar, I know that is impossible for them to do. I can absorb all of this damage, go for the double Fly, and potentially win this game with Talonflame. But we have to keep in mind that A-Slash, it stored some energy, right? It still has one Shadow Claw away from the Ice Punch, so if they end up throwing that move, they can knock out my Talonflame before I can incinerate them down. It might come down to Giratina going for the Dragon Breath down against this Alolan Sandslash as well as against the Talonflame. I am so low in HP right now. Am I going to be able to survive enough fast moves here to Dragon Breath them down? They get the Shadow Claw through. We are at 1 HP. In comes the Talonflame. We barely knock them out before they get their final move. GG's to our opponent. About as close of a matchup as it really gets. Alright, this time Cobalion in the lead. A much better lead than we've been seeing a lot of these games. I'm going to stay in here. Our Dragon Breaths obviously are resisted, but they're not doing anywhere near as little damage as our opponent's fast moves are doing. These double kicks doing absolutely nothing to us right now, but it's these Stone Edges that are going to add up. Stone Edge is a very strong move despite not being same type attack as the Cobalion, but I'm going to overfarm, go for these Shadow Sneaks here, but this is once again where Shadow Sneak just shows how bad of a move it is. It's going to do next to nothing to this Cobalion. If you didn't know better, you might think that was a resisted move I just threw, but no, it's just a really bad one. Another Shadow Sneak's coming through. It's not going to knock them out, but I've whittled this down into a range where I can Aqua Tail them to take them down. I could potentially go for a Flame or an Incinerate down as well, which could be very helpful depending on what they're going to do. You reach another charge move. It's 5-5-4 to get to these Stone Edges, so I know our Giratina is going to go down. It does lose the Zero Shield matchup, but it puts it into a range where I'm not quite as concerned about it in the backline. In comes the Shadow Feraligatr, which is a very tricky Pokemon to deal with, but if we can get shields down, Talonflame is going to be the pick that I think can work out and win us this game. No shield this Hydro Cannon. I know I survived the first. I don't want to be the first one to shield up here. If I do, then I'm going to be in a bit of a bad spot, potentially, but I'm going to see what our opponent does this time. Do they shield up this Crunch? No, they let it through. I get the defense drop, which means now maybe I can shield, farm them down, have so much energy for the backlane. There might still be a way I can win this game depending on what that final Pokemon is and depending on how much our opponent actually respects Talonflame. What comes in is going to be that Cobalion. I know I have these Aqua Tails. If they want to shield, I can throw back-to-back here. I'm expecting them to no-shield and to bank in their final Pokemon, whatever that's going to be. It is the Shadow Driftblim. This is going to be a very tricky Pokemon to take out. Bait the Aqua Tail here and try our best to take them out. That's not a Shadow Driftblim. That's actually just a regular Driftblim, my bad. But still, all I need to do this game is I need to get a lot of chip damage against this. I need to land these flies against this balloon if possible, because I know I can get to another Aqua Tail with our Driftblim. We end up shielding an Icy Wind bait, unfortunately, and going over 100 energy, but I wanted to throw on good timing to guarantee that I could get that Incinerate through. Fly does get no-shielded, but as long as I draw this final shield here, I think we're going to be able to win this game. We are 2 Poison Stings away from an Aqua Tail with their Shadow Drapion, and I know they're not going to be able to knock us out with 1 Astonish. They probably can knock us out with 2 with our Shadow Drapion, so as long as we can reach this Aqua Tail, and as long as it's enough to take them out here, we can win this game with Shadow Drapion just barely reaching this move and winning us this match. That's about as close as it gets, but Shadow Drapion proving why it's one of the best Pokemon in the Ultra League meta. Alright, next game here, Giratina up against the Shadow Hippowdon. We've been seeing this a couple times. I'm pretty sure this is actually pretty decent lead, though, for Giratina. We obviously have a lot of Dragon Breath damage. We outpace them to the first Scorching Sands, so before they can even potentially debuff us here, we're going to get this Dragon Claw off and put them down to about half health. They do end up throwing a move here. It's likely going to be the Scorching. I'd be very surprised to see a bait here. It is the Scorching Sands, and they do end up getting the attack drop. Not getting too lucky on our debuffs today, but we do still survive the move. We got off another Dragon Claw before their next charge attack is reached. And now, do they shield? No, they let it go. They're just fine playing at the Zero Shield matchup here, and I'm very much fine getting rid of this Hippo before our Shadow Drapion has to see it. Scorching Sands ends up getting us pretty low. I'm going to intentionally let him do a couple more sand attacks, get as low as possible to give whatever comes in as little farm as I can. In comes a Malamar, which is a bit of a tricky Pokemon for our team, but not when it's aligned into our Shadow Drapion. This is our best matchup here. I end up lagging a little bit. I could have got an extra Poison Sting through if the game didn't lag and not let me get my input, but that's fine. I guess we call it foul play here as well, which is also pretty good for us. This Crunch will either draw a shield or do a critical amount of damage to this Malamar. What is our opponent going to do? They let it through, and now I can probably go straight Aqua Tail to neutralize this Malamar. If they shield this, I'll start shielding myself. If they no-shield, honestly, if they shield, I could also just invest in Talonflame, though, right? We've already seen 2 Pokemon pretty strong against it. There's one thing in this world as a constant, and that's Talonflame up shields is one of the best Pokemon that you could possibly see. We end up no-shielding, and not only do we no-shield the attack, it was another foul play bait. They don't want to debuff themselves with superpower, so we end up surviving that move, getting off the move against that Malamar once again, and in the back is a Virizion that our Talonflame loves to see. We incinerate it down and take the game there. So is Giratina still the king of the Open Ultra League? I'm going to be honest, I think it's not anymore. It's a very strong Pokemon in its own right. It has good matchups, but the amount of Pokemon in the meta that kind of just hard counter it at this point make it very hard to use in certain scenarios. All right, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I stream my battles basically every day at twitch.tv/itsaxon. So if you want to see these battles live, make sure to check me out there. Also, I'm going to upload a lot more to the channel, so if you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe. All right, well, thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.